On this episode, we discuss summer camp.
Starring Mark Harmon.
No, that's summer school.
What did I watch then?
That's great. I like that. But I also love he said summer school, and you say, what did I watch? Clearly
Yeah, I
summer
know.
school.
I assume it was summer school. Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Flophouse. I'm Dan McCoy.
I'm Stuart Wellington.
I'm Elliot Kalin. That's right. The Elliot Kalin from the Flophouse.
Uh-huh,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
That's how I know you.
Yeah, your face looks familiar to me.
Yeah, does my face look familiar to the listeners of this podcast who are looking at me right now?
Yep. Hey, this is a podcast where
Oh.
we watch a bad movie. No, there's more.
Okay.
Oh,
Hold on, don't turn it off yet. You're like, just a podcast?
So we just-
a generic podcast? No, thank you. Like,
No,
there's
no.
more to the...
don't worry. There's more to the premise than just that. It's not
We
just a
watch-
delivery medium. It also has content, Dan.
We watch a movie that either audiences or critics rejected or both, and then we talk about it. In this case,
It was a both.
we watched... yeah, it was a both. We watched a film called Summer Camp, starring Diane Keaton,
And?
Alfred Woodard,
And?
Kathy Bates,
And?
And,
Beverly D'Angelo,
and,
Eugene Levy,
and,
Dennis Haysbert.
Uh-huh. Yep, and?
There's that guy, Betsy Sidaro's in
yeah,
it.
Uh-huh,
and,
Nicole Richie.
And-
Uh-huh, and?
I don't know who that guy is.
Josh Beck.
Okay.
So this is a
Charlene was
star-
like, is that Jonathan Silverman? I'm like, how old do you think Jonathan Silverman is?
Yeah, because he's been frozen for 30 years.
Yeah.
When the single guy ended, they just shoved him in a cryogenic unit. This is a star-studded cast. It
Yeah.
is studded with stars. They took a star stutter and they just punched stars into the leather of this.
Also,
of
it
this
has Eugene Levy and Dennis Haysbert, so that's 2 certified studs.
And this is also this is in the new genre, which is what we would call a book club, a movie
Yeah.
where you take some older actresses and you put them together in sort of a shaggy comedy, and that's kind of an evolution of, I think, an even older form. Often, like British actresses, older actresses, sort of get together for like a heartwarming comedy, or
I feel like
a
there's
little bit
always-
saucy.
It's the latest version of what, in the oldest Hollywood terms, you would call a woman's picture. A picture that is about women having feelings, going through some kind of relationship that with other women or between women and men that is about more about their emotional up and downs than it is about like a tightly plotted crackerjack story. This is but now they're all kind of like saucy comedies or kind of like
Yeah.
very lazy comedies, as opposed to in the 80s they would have been like your Steel Magnolias, that kind of thing. In the 40s they would
picture.
have been like your Now Voyagers, you know.
Yeah.
So that this is the current version of it.
Yeah, and the current version is the least tightly plotted version. As I put on my letterbox, it felt like the screenplay was falling downstairs. Like scenes would just sort of.
Dan, you should save that kind of stuff for the podcast. That's good
It's
stuff.
true. Yeah, well, I recycle it. I'm earth conscious.
Yeah, I feel like that's true. I feel like your letterbox reviews are just these dazzling. If you're not subscribing to Dan's letterbox, you should.
Yes,
These
it's
dazzling little
great.
reviews, and your podcast recordings are often you getting angry at us for interrupting you. But if you
Why
were
are you
bringing
guys
out,
here?
if you were bringing out gold and diamonds like that, we'd never
Yeah, it's
interrupt
true.
you.
I love Dan's letterbox reviews. This is not a burn at all. This is,
No,
this
his
is a
letterbox
moment
reviews
are great.
of honesty. Yeah.
Very kind of both of you.
If anyone pays people to review movies, you should hire Dan because he can do the job amazingly. He's great at it. Yeah,
Mhm. For reviewing movies, or if he has to, he'll take his top off. He doesn't care.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Or my shoes and socks.
Speaking of taking tops
But
off,
nothing
let's just
else.
get it. Let's
Yeah.
just get it. Let's just get it
Middle
out.
range, I'm not
yeah,
into.
let's air this before it gets weird. But yes, Beverly D'Angelo still looks incredible, ageless. What a beauty.
Yeah.
She can still get it.
Uh,
Despite what
did we
Dan
have
was trying to
air
argue
this
with me.
before
Yeah.
it got weird, or did it just get weird?
I feel like I think he said I have to say this so it'll get weird. Yeah.
I mean, this
If I can't
competes
get
with
weird with you guys,
Yeah,
who can I get weird with? My
the thing-
therapist? He hates me.
the thing I wrote down in my notes is at one point Diane Keaton repeats to herself. They force Diane Keaton to repeat to herself, "I'm a bad bitch," over and over again. I'm like, do I have a new kink now? Is that what's going on?
Dan, if Diane Keaton wasn't your kink before, you got a problem. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know you then. Yeah.
There's a moment later on when they're about to go rafting, and I was like rubbing my hands together, being like, "How covered up will Diane Keaton be for this? How many turtlenecks is she wearing?
Is she
how
gonna
many
be
scarves over turtlenecks?"
Is there some kind of broad-brimmed aquatic hat that she can be wearing?
The craziest thing is in that specific scene of the three women, she has the smallest brimmed hat.
Yeah, it's true. Usually she likes a big hat. Oh,
I'm like, what universe am I in?
I love her. I mean, any movie with Diane Keaton in it, to a certain extent, is gonna be at least a certain level of good to me. I mean, I've seen some bad movies with her in it, but it's almost impossible for me to not enjoy seeing her in a movie, even if she's not playing a Diane Keaton character. She's great in Reds. I love her in that, and just not a character that you would think of as a Diane Keaton character.
I do love that they're just like, we are dressing her the same no matter what movie it is.
I think that's more of a Diane Keaton thing. I'm wearing the same clothes no matter what movie.
Diane
Keaton just brings a rack of her own clothes from home for every.
Probably,
film.
Yeah.
I want this
Saves
stuff.
on
But, again,
wardrobe,
but then that's a throwback to, again, old Hollywood type way of treating actresses, where an actress had a style, and actors too, and that style would carry from picture to picture. And I feel like with Diane Keaton, it's a similar thing. It's like, this is what Diane Keaton dresses like, and it's great. It works so well for her. Everyone loves it. Why would you change it? Why bother?
Yeah.
Well, what you were saying about always being happy to see her, though, I want to say that dovetails into something I just want to say that
into.
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves with Final Judgments. Like we actually really tend to like these types of movies here at the Flophouse, because it is like, oh yeah, we get to see these great performers doing things that, and unfortunately don't get to do other stuff. But this may be one of the shaggiest versions of this kind of thing that we've gotten thus far.
This movie is very
hit
shaggy.
the highs of like 80 for Brady, for instance.
No, not at all. This is if this movie's so shaggy that it's almost a DA.
Oh,
because there was the shaggy DA once.
Yeah,
okay,
it's
guys.
so shaggy, it's going to claim that it wasn't him when being caught.
Exactly. Dan, do you have a shaggy reference that you can throw to?
It's so shaggy, it hangs out with a large dog. And
that's the one I was hoping.
3 completely different Shaggies.
We did it. Okay, so let's talk about this.
I'm really glad that you guys both, just to pull back the curtain, both Dan and Elliot thought they were doing the summary. It's a real mix-em-up, something that would happen in one of these movies. And they both thought they were doing the summary, which is great because I don't remember almost any of this movie. So I'm very excited
Stuart
about
needs to go to summary camp, which is what we're going to do today. Now and now as weak as that joke was, that is 1,000% stronger than any joke in the movie Summer Camp, because there's not a lot of jokes in the movie. There's when I found the one part that I really laughed hard at out loud was when Diane Keaton is walking out of a room holding a pillow and just goes, fucking pillow, and throws it down, which feels like an ad lib. I have to imagine that was an ad lib. So, okay, Summer Camp. Dan, I'm going to, unless you'd like to do the honors, I'll do the summary.
No, I'll stay on my notes if there's anything incisive that I wrote down.
Keep me honest, yeah. So we start at Camp Pinnacle. It is an undefined past time. It's roughly the 60s or 70s.
Is it? I thought it looked like 80s, but maybe I'm wrong.
It looked 70s to me, but all of these women were adults, or at least Diane Keaton and Kathy Bates were in the 70s. They would have gone to summer camp in like the early 60s, let's say.
Well, they're playing Itty Bitty Pretty One on the soundtrack, which I think indicates earlier.
Oh, I just thought it indicated a lack of imagination on the part of whoever chose the songs for the movie. So
real quick, were you guys summer camp kids? Did you guys go to summer camp?
I went to nerd alert. I went to church camp several years in a row.
God damn it! You make me sick.
Which
the worst kind of nerd, religious nerd.
I mean, it's basically the same as other summer camps in that there were outdoor activities and everyone was obsessed with the idea that maybe we would make out with one another. Yeah, but there would also be Bible study every day.
Oh, cool.
I mean, I went to Jewish camp at one point, so that's I escaped from several camps while I was a kid. So summer camp and I were not friends. And I actually wrote a story for a book that came out years ago, an anthology that came out from Hebe magazine, the magazine that was about making Jews cool, and did not succeed. That about a story about running away from camp and almost getting away with it. And so I had a very negative relationship with summer camp when I was young. Now it sounds like a lot of fun. If I went to a camp as an adult, I think I'd have a great time. But as a kid, when I did not love outdoor activities that much, and also people were bullying me all the time. I didn't like it that much. Stuart, how about you? Summer camp? Did you ever do that?
My summer camp experience, I went to soccer camp a couple times where I'd spend like 2 weeks.
Soccer tort camp? You do a lot of like Middle European baking? Yeah.
Delicious patisserie. So I would do that. So I watched this movie with my wife, who did spend some time at summer camp.
Because I'll tell you, because your wife and I have one big thing in common, is that we are East Coast Jews, and that summer camp is a very big thing for especially New York area Jewish people. Yeah.
And she went to a summer camp in Pennsylvania, Camp Pointel, and she, in fact, like 2 years ago, went to a camp reunion. She hadn't been back since they denied her application to be a counselor in training, which was a huge piece of trauma for her.
That's a big slap in the face, yeah.
Which, weirdly enough, my therapist went to the same camp, had the same experience. Isn't that strange? I know.
Are you married to your therapist?
It feels like
that's a conflict.
Seems like conflict. I will say that I mentioned East Coast Jews. My wife, who is, of course, a West Coast Jew, also she went to summer camp, has a very strong connection with her summer camp, and my older son now goes to that summer camp.
That tracks. That tracks for me.
Yeah.
From what I know of your family.
And of course, you have an East Coast, West Coast beef.
So many have died in our house. It's really a lot of drive-bys. Okay,
so
anyway.
I bring this up because Charlene, while watching it, gave me color commentary on whether or not, A, this looks like a nice camp, or B, if they could do that at a camp.
Oh, okay. So I'll be happy to hear Dan's commentary on my summary and your intake of Charlene's commentary of whether they could do that. So we're at Camp Pinnacle. There's a little narration from Ginny, who we'll learn is one of the titular summer campers.
Go on. Took me a while you guys were watching this part. Were you like trying to map the different actresses onto their young counterparts?
No, it seemed pretty clear that the black one was Alfred Woodward.
And the skinny one with glasses was Diane Keaton.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the one who's kind of like sassy, you knew was going to be Kathy Bates.
With a southern accent.
Okay.
Yeah, with a southern accent. That's true. So we're introduced to three campers.
And the kid with the eyebrows. You're like, that's fucking Eugene Levy right there.
yeah, exactly. So I didn't know Eugene Levy was in the movie going into it. So once he showed up,
look at the credits.
I didn't really do a lot of intense
the dishes
research.
Were calling. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, the dishes were calling me. The dishes were a nice respite.
Tossed salad and scrambled eggs. You hear the dishes are calling.
Didn't know what to do with them. So I think it was anyway, we don't need to get into parsing the Frasier theme song. So Ginny is narrating as an adult about how kids love summer camp, but nerdy Nora did not until she met bad girl Ginny and also nerdy Mary. And the three of them became fast friends. Ginny, of course, talks Mary through her first period, which is about as... this is a movie that every now and then leans in a more off-color or kind of like raunchy direction, and then immediately reels back as quickly as possible.
I don't want to skip ahead too much, but there is a scene when they all come back as adults, where Kathy Bates' adult Ginny gives them the gift all of small radio-controlled vibrators.
Vibrating eggs.
And I'm like, this is going to come back into the movie later on. And other than like one quick reference, it does not. Like it seems like the setup for a raunchy... At
some point in the draft, there must have been, of this screenplay, there must have been a scene where they're controlling each other's vibrators. Like in that
they
horrible...
get it mixed up.
That Katherine Heigl, Gerard Butler... The
Ugly Truth, yeah.
Was that it? Yeah, The Ugly Truth?
Yeah.
So I have to assume that at some point there was a scene where they were doing that.
That's the movie where the cat's name is D'Artagnan.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. So anyway, they get put together in the Sassafras cabin, just the three of them. They become best friends. For years afterwards, they're always being reunited at camp. They really love it. Now it's 50 years later. That's why I assumed it was the 70s. I think they say 50 years later, but maybe not.
And this isn't taking place in the future.
No, I don't think so. No, I forgot to mention, this takes place in the year 2245 when it's after the robot rebellion and humanity has gone back to a 2020s level of technology.
They're all doing it as a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Ginny is now a famous self-help mogul, Ginny Moon. She's determined to get her friends Mary and Nora to this big camp reunion. Mary, we learn, is a nurse who should have been a doctor. She either dropped out of med school or didn't go because she got married young. Her husband is always annoying her.
She minimizes herself,
Yes, she minimizes herself and puts others before herself too much. There's a scene where she is literally giving life-saving resuscitation to somebody while her husband is calling her, being like, "Where's the peanuts?" at home, and keeps answering, and it's like, just take your Apple Watch off. Like, just don't wear it. I don't like this. You should anyway. But it shows that she's always putting her husband first. Nora, meanwhile, is a workaholic CEO at a science company of some kind, and Ginny and Mary ambush her at her lab, convince her to come with them in Ginny's RV, and as they drive, Ginny reveals she had a stalker once. This is another thing that you think is going to come up as a plot point later on. Doesn't. There's a lot of like,
that would have been great,
a lot of things that are laid in as if they're going to be important later, and they are not.
Now, Ginny's big branding, of course, also is "Get your shit together," which is on the side of her giant RV, which is kind of like, throughout
it's a tour bus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks more like a bus, but they call it an RV.
And she drives it herself, right? It's like she doesn't have a driver, I don't think.
No. And
that's a character they're really missing. They could have gotten some like weird old grumpy.
Well, think about what Meatloaf adds to Spice World.
I'm glad we solved this problem of whether there was a driver or not in the middle of. No, I'm just saying that I wanted to say that this is like the first indication that Ginny, while well-meaning, a lot of her help is kind of based on bullying, which will become a bigger thing as the film goes on.
She's very much in the kind of like Dr. Phil, Jordan Peterson. If you have a problem, it's on you, and you've got to fix yourself. And don't blame the world; it's your problem. Be tough. Be tough and stand up for yourself, and be a bitch.
And I blame all my problems on that dang Slender Man.
I mean, here's the thing, Stuart. You got to hear Slender's side of the story because he has a good reason for why he's doing those things.
I mean,
because he has trouble finding pants that don't fall down.
He promotes that unrealistic body image too.
Yeah, that unrealistic Jack Skellington body image that's been held over our heads for too long.
Yeah. Ideal boyfriend.
I tell you, I try to get people to have a crush on me on Tumblr, but they only want those Slender Man Jack Skellingtons, Yeah. If I'm not the Onceler from the Lorax movie, they are not interested.
Negative 3% body fat or nothing, sir.
I want you to have the body of someone whose stomach is eating away at your own flesh because you're not feeding it enough. Yeah.
Yeah, anyway. I'm only dating guys who have contracted the thinner curse.
Yeah, Bachman's disease.
Contracted it.
So this is the hardest part of my job. You've caught thinner. They arrive at the camp reunion. They meet Vic, who's a kind of. So this is Betsy Todaro, right? And I'm like, I couldn't tell what Vic's role was supposed to be. If they're a security guard or a program director or just like a general all around counsel. She presents herself as if she is like their personal liaison who's working just for them. But most of the movie is her yelling at them for breaking the rules or things like that. I kept thinking, the way this part is written, I wonder if this was a male part, and then they cast Betsy Todaro because all the writing is it makes it clear this is like an this is supposed to be like a veteran who's like tough as nails.
I don't know. I think it was just like this is the Betsy Todaro role.
I mean, this is the kind of character that Betsy Todaro
90% of I just was. My problem with this character was it felt like they wanted her in the movie. They just had a part to toss out to someone and did not write lines, or it's all like I feel like everything's improvised.
That and a lot of the Josh Peck stuff feels like it is a lot of improvising and ad-libbing. Yeah.
And it's one of those things where we have these characters who are they're like, what are the stakes really? Like all these characters seem to be well-to-do. They are at this reunion where there's no campers. It's only returning
Well, it's
alumni.
an adult camp. I mean, camps do that. They'll for the weekend.
But what I'm saying is that they're like treated like these, like if they break any of these, in many cases, kind of silly rules, they really like come down on them, and it feels so strange because you're like, you're an adult, like you're fine.
I mean, well, that's later on. Later on, we'll get to the point where Diane Keaton is trying to break into the room where the phones are stored to get her phone, and they're like sitting in the camp director's office getting chewed out. And it's like, yeah, you're an adult, just leave or just do whatever. Like, what's the authority here? But anyway, but this is
this is supposed to be like the Paul Blart Mall Cop version of comedy, though, where it's like, oh, this character with no actual power, is on a power trip, which I never find as funny as movies want me to find it.
But really you love Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Oh, yeah. Well, I go to BlartCon every year.
Well, you've got that tattoo on your belly that says Blart Life. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So they
Blart
also...
is art.
We meet a couple of the other characters here that are their old summer camp, either chums or romantic interests who are now older. Of course, the popular girls are there, led by Beverly D'Angelo. And there's also their old crushes are back, and they are, of course, Stevie D, played by Eugene Levy.
I gotta say,
and
Dennis Haysbert.
Tommy, played by Dennis Haysbert.
Yeah. And they get out of the car to the strains of Sharp Dressed Man. And I got to say, this is the one time, I think, in history that Eugene Levy has gotten a slow-mo sexy intro.
And I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a joke. At first, I thought it was a joke. That, this older guy, they're treating this way. But throughout the movie, they just treat him straightforwardly as like, he is a handsome, sexy man.
Well, the thing is, the movie made me realize, I'm like, oh, Eugene Levy is handsome. He just plays like such a goofball, fumbling schlub.
I'll give you a secret, dude. I'll give you a secret. Even people in movies who are considered not handsome are handsome in real life. I'll watch Singing in the Rain, and Donald O'Connor is supposed to be like the goofy sidekick. He's a very good looking man. Even the goofy side, but next to Gene Kelly, he's not, stellarly handsome, but but Eugene Levy, the idea that oh yeah, he's a good looking guy. Yeah, he's had a career in television and movies for 50 years. Yeah, of course.
I would rather they let him be funny in this movie. As we were texting on the Flophouse chain, and I actually said to Audrey, it's an odd movie where it's Eugene Levy does not make me laugh one time, and
is not even trying a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I think he has he has the kind of lines that I think are supposed to be joke lines in the hands of who's a handsome star who's not a funny guy, who would have those kinds of lines. I don't know.
I don't know what point you're making. So
I don't know, Harrison Ford or something like that.
Yeah.
The kind of lines where it's oh, this is the handsome guy is making an along the way remark. That's not supposed to be a huge funny joke. It just shows he has a sense of humor. But you've got Eugene Levy, who's a genuinely incredibly funny person. So, but it's strange. So anyway, but their crushes show up. The ladies have to give up their phones. Nora and Mary don't like that. Nora, she wants to do work, and Mary's got to keep in touch with her husband, who's connected to her as if he was her child.
And there's a moment where Betsy Sidaro's listing all the things they might have, and she's like, iPads, and I'm like, these women have iPads.
Yes. And so there's a moment where they see that their cabin is full of bugs, and they're like, ew. And I'm like, okay, we'll get jokes about rustic stuff. No. This is still in that kind of, what's her name? The one who did Something's Gotta Give.
Nora Ephron?
No.
Nancy Myers.
Nancy Myers, where everyone has fancy kitchens.
Oh, you're right.
I'm like, well, I thought this was going to be more Nancy Myers-y. Then we see how Kathy Bates has had their cabin glammed up, and there's a lot of Top Chef kitchen style panning shots of how nice the cabin is now, and she also gives them the aforementioned egg vibrators, which do not play into the plot.
It's not a big thing, but I want to highlight a moment that I found baffling, just in the sense of
it's not a thing from the movie Big.
Yeah, it's not a thing from the movie Big. It's from
that
this
giant
movie.
Fucking keyboard, right? They dance on.
No, I said it's not.
But that is a big thing from the movie Big.
Pretty big,
it's also
right?
It's big in two ways, and that's
true.
what I'm saying is not.
Tonight we're serving Big two ways. It's a giant keyboard from the movie Big. I'm supposed to eat
and
this.
Also
I don't
just
understand.
The movie Big.
Supposed to dance on it with Robert Loggia. Let's get him out.
Oh no!
No, let's do it.
Oh no!
No, we have it. Bring his corpse out. We can do this.
No, it's not a. It's not a major point, but I want to bring it up.
So it's not from the movie Major Pain.
God damn it.
Yes,
to
Dan?
me, this is just emblematic of how shaggily this movie is put together, because we get the moment where they see the pretty committee. They're like, ugh, gross. They're still like they were, whatever. And then Jenny takes out her phone and plays a TikTok she made about how if you don't get the love you deserve, you should take his ass to the dumpster. Mm-hmm. And the women have this reaction as if this was pertinent to anything that happened before, that this flowed naturally from the scene before, when it has no reference to anything. I mean, later on, there's stuff about Alfre Woodard's character's husband, Mike, and how shitty he is and how he needs to be taken to the dumpster. But that is not the scene that preceded this. And I'm like, am I going mad? Why is this scene here? What's happening? And I think that's just kind of the way the movie is in a lot of ways.
It's not a tightly structured movie.
No.
Also, we find Beverly D'Angelo's character now is enamored of Ginny because Ginny is famous. So the idea, so you think they're setting it up for the popular kids are now mean adults, and there's going to be tension there, but there isn't. It's
not
just
really.
not. This is let's call this movie easygoing. We've been saying shaggy. This is if this was from the 70s, people might be like, oh, it's that laid back, shaggy 70s charm.
Classic Altman-esque.
Exactly. But it doesn't, it's not good. So it doesn't achieve that. But it's a very.
The sound is so crazy.
I wouldn't even call this movie slapped together so much as kind of scattered. Like they scattered
Yeah.
scenes on the ground, and it's up to you to pick them up and kind of put them in some kind of tense order.
Pick it up, look at it, or just put it back down. Who cares?
Just put it back down, yeah. So the ladies go have drinks. They accidentally knock over an hors d'oeuvres tray, leading to a food table falling over. And it begins this running gag of Josh Peck's character, who works at the camp. The idea is they keep talking about how he keeps screwing up and having to get jobs that are kind of lower on the totem pole. But he's not really screwing up so much as the ladies are messing things up for him. Like he's not really doing anything wrong, but the movie always assumes that this character is kind of like a loser, but it just doesn't gel. It doesn't make sense.
Well, also I have to say in my own notes, right, like as we said, we had some confusion over using the summary. So I was also taking notes, and I didn't register him as an important character until sort of halfway through the movie when I'm like, oh, I should start noting down what this guy's doing, because by the end he becomes important.
Go all the way back.
He is given no like the movie does not do the job that most movies do that underlines, okay, these are the things you need to pay attention to as you watch the film.
Because I think the truth is that until maybe the last 10 minutes, there's nothing you need to pay attention to.
Exactly. Yep. That's true.
It's a real wallpaper of a movie. Anyway, they meet up with Tommy and Stevie, and there's a lot of awkward flirting all around, awkward innuendo.
Love it.
But Nora is mostly annoyed at how hard it is to do work at the camp. She yells at Vic. She gets embarrassed in front of Stevie. That night, Ginny's annoyed that Nora's working and she's not present. She doesn't know how to not work. But luckily, she can't do work on her phone while she is river rafting. They go river rafting. Nora falls out of the raft. They have to pull her in.
I was very excited also because I'm like, how are they going to shoot this? Because that's got to be a stunt actor. Like, how, and it doesn't really look like Diane Keaton until they haul her back in.
Yes, yeah, I think it's fair to not push Diane Keaton into river rapids.
I was going to say, I can't believe this movie would throw Diane Keaton into the river rapids.
Yeah, there's also a later scene where Alfre Woodard is riding a horse around and falls off a horse. And, it's just spot the stunt double. It's a fun game you can play with.
But again, I'm happy to not have Alfre Woodard thrown off a horse for real.
I'm not saying she should do it, and certainly not for summer camp.
Yes, not for summer camp. Yeah. Of all the movies to break a collarbone for, summer camp is not the one. And it just kind of goes on like that for a while, and you keep getting the same notes of Mary's talking to her husband on the phone. He doesn't really pay attention. Ginny's kind of bossy. Nora's trying to work. Stevie shows up and helps her sneak into the cell phone room, and they're about to kiss when Vic catches them. Oh, no. Stevie kind of talks them out of trouble, but not exactly. And when Nora gets back, her friends are disappointed that she didn't kiss Stevie. They're like, spill the tea, spill the tea. And she's like, oh, there isn't really any. And so the
I'm
girls
going to keep the tea in my cup, thank you very much.
Yep, and the girls have a little talk about marriage and loneliness. Is it right to get married? Is it not right to get married? Is loneliness worth the independence that you get? And this could have been, there's a couple scenes where it's like, this isn't funny, but like, I kind of would love to see these actresses playing characters of their age, talking realistically about the feelings of being at that age and the choices you've made, and now you're living with the results of those choices, which is what this movie is about. But like, it's also
like past lives like that.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, but it's also supposed to be kind of like a bubbly nothing, and so you're not going to get that deep into those themes or into those moments. The next day, it's archery. Nora almost hits people with her arrows. At one point, she almost fires one backwards behind her, which is hard to do.
There is a scene early on when they were kids where they meet Dennis Haysbert and Eugene Levy's child characters.
They're younger characters, yeah.
Because they shoot one of them with an arrow.
Yeah, they shoot
and
Dennis
it
Haysbert with an arrow
in his stomach.
And he still has a scar. And the story is told that Mary, as a kid, like glues the wound shut, which is, I have to say, having been to summer camp, if you got hit with an arrow, you would be taken away from the camp and brought to the hospital. Like that's not the kind. I hope that Charlene pointed out to you, Stuart, that like at a real camp, the kids were not allowed to do the first aid for a projectile puncture wound.
She said that was that all tracked. That all made sense based on her experience. Yeah.
And so
there's some very sexual pottery making here too.
So Mary goes off with Dennis Haysbert, and they do some phallic pottery. That then turns into vaginal pottery.
Yeah, then there's some fingering of the pottery that happens as well.
That's true. And Nora and Stevie do some flirt archery, and they hit the bullseye together. And Dan, I think in your Letterboxd review, you said something about sexual tension you couldn't cut with a chainsaw. You said something about it being not since oh, now I'm forgetting the name. What's that real sweaty movie with Kathleen
Body
Turner?
Heat?
Not since Body Heat. Thank you.
Yeah.
There's been so much palpable sex on screen. You said that, right? In your letter.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like me. That sounds like the sort of thing I'd say.
And then you
but
just
I
said
don't remember.
awooga, and then it was 4 siren emojis one after the other. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you put it on your list that you just titled "Heat Alert."
Yeah, he was like, "You guys looking for a third?"
So-
Yeah, that's right. I got real horned up watching this.
And so Ginny just keeps telling Mary to leave her husband, not in clever ways, just saying you should leave your husband. He sucks. They give Nora, I guess they're like trying to give her like a sexier outfit, but it still kind of looks like a Diane Keaton outfit. And
Yeah.
they get, which is again, is a certain kind of
Can't-
sexy.
Can't improve on. Can't put a hat on a hat. Right?
No,
Yeah.
there's no, you can't get more than 100%. And then she gets her to call herself a bad bitch. This is one of the big, I assume this was, if there had been a trailer for this movie,
the
I don't know if there
trailer,
was,
yeah.
this would be the trailer moment. And they also give Mary a makeover. So it's a lot of, sprucing each other up.
I'm just imagining if, like, after the bad bitch moment, it really like turned into like it took a turn and like turned into like sort of a neo noir where she had to become like a bad bitch.
Yeah, well, she gets caught up in a murder scheme, or it becomes like
Yeah.
a faster Pussycat Kill, and now
Yeah.
she's like kidnapping Eugene Levy and ripping his clothes off and like scratching his chest and writing
what
like
a picture it would be.
cock on his forehead with a lipstick and things like that.
Yeah. Or
What a
one of her
turn.
arms turns into like a gun, like like she's a cyborg ninja.
Yeah, and she has sex with a car, and she gives
that's a
birth to a
pretty
metal
bad bitch.
baby. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, good
So-
stuff.
I would say this movie checks a lot of the boxes. I was definitely expecting there to be a scene where they all accidentally do drugs. Right? They didn't. There wasn't one of those.
Yeah, they
You know,
missed out on
or on
that.
purpose. There should, you know what? For this movie, there should have been a
Like
scene.
an ayahuasca trip
Yeah.
or something.
ayahuasca trip, or even like they accidentally eat edibles or something like
A lot
that.
of
Yeah,
a lot of Kathy Bates, Ginny Moon's character, like the jokes for her is mainly her just like saying celebrity names, right? There's a lot of like,
She does a lot.
oh, I was having a threesome with like Dr. Phil and Oprah or something.
Yeah, it's a lot of like celebrity name drops or like just kind of like vulgar talk. Like she's a little
Yeah.
more earthy than the others, you know.
Yeah.
She's more
Yeah.
Rebelasian, you know.
Even on like on a more basic level, like there's a whole like genre of like camp movies that I feel like this movie
Yeah, like
does
Pink
not.
Flamingos.
yeah, that's right.
yeah. Friday the
Apple.
13th.
The Apple, yeah, camp movies. Yeah.
No, I just don't think
That's
that
where
this
you were
like-
going down a different comedy path than we were going down.
Yeah.
Still works.
Still works. That's true. I mean, it's a
But-
little more literal. That is Friday the 13th is a camp movie, but yeah.
But I feel like they could have
Mother's
gotten a lot
Day.
of juice out of just taking the tropes of
a summer
other
camp
like
movie.
summer camp comedies and really doing them rather like
Dan,
with
there is a food
older
fight scene.
actors.
There is a
yeah,
food
that's
fight
true.
scene. Yeah.
It's true. That's the one time they do it.
And there's no one's ever done like taken all the cliches about summer camp movies and made like a parody comedy.
They've never done
about
it.
that.
It's
No
never,
one's
they
ever
certainly
done
didn't
that.
do it as a movie or a 6-episode television series. Didn't-
Yeah.
Never happened.
Yeah.
But you're right, Dan. They could have just to do like the summer camp scenes and the Parent Trap, that kind of thing, but with
Yeah.
older people as opposed to kids. Like
Now, if
that's,
they were to do that, they should do a little bit of off the wall casting, maybe with like a SVU actor in a comedic role.
Oh, you're
That
still
would
on
be-
this. I see. Yeah,
still
look,
the same one.
it's
Yeah.
like where we.
I mean, I think
Okay.
was he on SVU at the time? I guess he was, right?
He's got to
No.
have been. He's always been on it, right?
Yeah, it's like The Shining. Yeah, there's a picture of SVU from 1925
Yeah,
with
it's a
Chris
picture of
Maloney
his
in there.
fucking cheeked up tush.
He does have a cheeked up tush.
I mean, everybody does, right? Like, what are your tushes made out of?
Yeah, but like he's
My
fucking
cheeks.
packing some serious cake back there, man.
Well, we're going into
You
a-
haven't paid attention?
No, I haven't. I haven't really paid that much attention to to how caked up he is in the back.
Christopher Maloney is.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
I think
Guys.
you're missing out.
Guys, I'm gonna go to too much information.
No, I
Okay.
love this.
Audrey was taking some photos of me in my underwear the other day just because she's like,
Dan,
look at,
no, Dan,
look
Dan,
at,
we are
look
at the
at
level
what-
of too much
look
information.
I love this.
No, hold on. Not in a sexual way. Well, sort of, but not really. But because she's like, look at what yoga has done to your butt. Look at
Oh, I see. And you can't see that. You need
it.
a
Look,
picture
I can't
to
see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
man.
I gotta say, I've got cheeked up cakes now.
Yeah.
Wow, you're like
yeah,
Christopher
yeah.
Maloney, finally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dan's dragging a wagon.
Yeah. It's finally happened. I never thought it could happen
You,
Oh,
to
you
me.
are
well.
finally built like a Pixar mom.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Stupid
anyway,
thick McCoy. That's what we call him.
yeah, he's like the American Godzilla back there. Yeah.
Yeah, Dan gets stopped on the
Chonky.
street asking where he got his BBL.
So that night, Ginny is hosting a sort of public therapy session where like people take turns getting therapy from her in front of everybody. She reduces Beverly D'Angelo to admitting that she is an approval-seeking phony. Which is the kind of thing that would mean more if we had seen her actually being like not nice or in any way. Like it feels like finally she's getting her comeuppance, but for what? There's no come to uppance from, you know.
And I mean, like the movie's doing this on purpose because Jenny is going to get a kind of
Her
a comeuppance.
Yes.
But it did seem weird to me because I'm like, oh, well, Beverly D'Angelo is being like really vulnerable. And Jenny's reaction is like, okay, now go sit down.
Yeah.
It seemed really mean.
I think she is. I mean, she's not good at this. I mean, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the secret, everybody, about celebrity kind of therapy things. They're often not very good. Like they're. I think the main thing about therapy, for me at least, is that you can't do it en masse. Like it's got to be a personalized thing about who you are. And so the idea that she's just like speed rounding therapy, like maybe it's on purpose. The idea that like she's bad at this because at the end, well, she'll admit she needs to get her shit together, you know. But anyway, so Ginny starts practicing her keynote speech for the other two, and it's just full of her regular kind of like deal with it, you know, stand up for yourself, idiot, kind of stuff. It's too aggressive.
Basic like social media therapy influencer type.
Yes, and they start to give her critique of it, and she gets defensive. The next morning, Mike, Mary's husband, shows up, and he is mean to her. He didn't give her permission to stay all this long.
Kind of like the idea that her husband showed up, and he's like, "Where are the peanuts at?"
Same place I told you last time.
He's like a dominating baby is the thing. It's his need and his desperate need that is the bully.
Have you met many old men? There are a lot of dominating babies.
That's true. And she's like, no, I'm not going to go home with you. And the other ladies are watching from afar and seeing all this. And she says, no, I'm staying here. And her husband leaves. Mary is relieved, and the others are really proud of her. And she's like, what do you want to do? And she goes, I want to go horseback riding.
I want to ride a fucking horse.
Which we know because we saw it earlier on. She liked as a kid. Unfortunately, there's a minor mishap. She gets thrown in the mud by the horse. Don't worry, she's okay.
Yeah, she's okay. I was like, every bone would be shattered.
Yeah.
And also, like, this is where I get really mad at the Josh Peck character too, who's like, he's like doofy in the rest of the movie, but here he does
cause the problem.
Oh, she shouldn't be riding that horse. He stands right in front of the fucking horse, so it throws her. I'm like, she was doing fine, man. What is this?
Yeah.
What is this bullshit?
Yeah, he is doing his job badly there. The girls have dinner with the guys. Ginny won't stop bragging about how important she is. And Tommy, Dennis Haysbert, chokes, and Mary saves him with the Heimlich, which leads to a food fight. It's dumb. This scene's just dumb. And it literally has someone yelling, food fight, which, like, I've been in food fights at summer camp. No one ever yells it. People just start throwing it. Once you get food hitting you, you know you're in a food fight. Like, you don't have to have it announced, you know.
For someone who's arguing...
Like, no one ever goes, war, when a war breaks out. Like, you know you're in one when you're getting shot at. Yeah.
I mean, technically, Congress is supposed to go, war,
technically.
before it
happens. But the power of the executive office has been expanded so much since the War Powers Act that piece of legislation, though never overturned, has effectively been overturned in practical terms.
Anyone can shout war these days.
Wow, I can't believe we're being classified as a educational podcast, right?
And we're being deported.
I have to just make sure that this never gets found out by the TSA because they won't let me back in when I talk about it. Yeah.
Anywho, too real. Let's go back to summer camp.
Let's go back to something that is not real at all. So there's a big food fight. They leave. Nora and Stevie escape to the kitchen, which even though it's the dinner time session of camp, the kitchen is deserted and totally clean. So I guess the staff made the food, cleaned up, and left. Yeah, they're just great. And they do end up kissing. She ends up kissing him because she thinks he's going in for a kiss. At the cabin, Mary gets mad at Ginny for being so bossy and judgmental, and they argue. They all get into a fight. That's right. It's the end of Act 2. Time for the heroes to get into a fight and be mad at each other. And they learn that Ginny was hiding a cell phone, and she reveals...
This is like when Spider-Man gives up his powers, right? When Spider-Man would be like, I don't want my powers anymore, and he walks around powerless,
kind of.
right?
And he just walks around.
This is when Spider-Man's
That's what he fucking does in the movie.
You're too bossy. My memory of Uncle Ben telling me to be responsible.
Yeah.
You're trying to boss me all the time.
Stuart, the way he said it, it said as if he goes, I don't want my powers anymore. So he just walks around in his costume, just solving crimes without using any of his powers.
The powers were a crutch.
Did you see when the Knicks won their game the other day?
You can guarantee I did not see that.
But there was a guy dressed up in a Spider-Man suit with Knicks memorabilia dancing in a circle of like hundreds of people. And I'm like, this is the most New York thing I've ever seen.
Unless he was holding a pizza in his hand. Yeah. But the only sports thing I'm aware of recently was that they've retired the scoreboard on the, for when, I think it's when the Pirates and the Phillies play, so that if there's no score, it no longer looks like it says poop on screen. And that was a sad moment for baseball when they retired that.
Yeah, that's too bad.
So anyway, that's the kind of sports story that gets onto my radar is when a graphic that says poop is retired. So they all get mad at each other, and Ginny admits that this whole summer camp reunion, she funded and planned the whole thing just to have an excuse to get her friends together because she didn't expect that they would want to spend time with her. Nora storms out. This is when she has her best line of the movie, "Fuck you, pillow," and she just drops a pillow as she's walking out. She sneaks into Ginny's RV and spends the night responding to work messages. Oh, no, she's hit rock bottom, which for her is working too hard. The next morning, Stevie finds her there, and he gives her a talk about being a workaholic, and she runs after him like, no, wait, I can change. Mary, on a hike, runs into Tommy, pours out her troubles to him, and like the perfect man that he is in a movie for ladies, he just says, I just like to listen to you. Doesn't try to give her advice or solve her problems, doesn't try to tell about his problems. He's just there to listen. A perfect partner, because he's doing for her what she does for her husband, which is just be at her beck and call emotionally.
Her love language seems to be what, quality time? Is that?
Yeah,
probably.
I think so. Attention.
And hiking and pottery.
And hiking and pottery, yeah. Nora and Stevie, they talk about setting limits at work and how he had a heart attack at one point and spending more time with his kids. And I got to tell you, as someone whose current work status is being dead, being murdered by work, this really spoke to me. This really spoke to me. For anyone who's listening, don't worry, I am not dead yet.
Well, please don't get murdered by work.
Let me
be the first to say.
I'm trying my best. It's a real game of cat and mouse between me and work right now over who's going to get who. You see that? Ever seen that movie? Is it Assassins? The one where it's Antonio Banderas and Sylvester Stallone are each trying to kill each other? That's like that between me and work right now. So Ginny's trying to write her speech, and she's having trouble, and she runs into the camp employee, Josh Peck, who keeps getting into trouble. And he's the one who's basically like, you're too controlling. She's really rude to him, but then he shows her up because he knows more about how dangerous deer scat is to just leave around than she does. She doesn't know everything, Well,
also, he just very calmly says something like, that hurt my feelings. Or like, that was me and you hurt my feelings. And it seems to get through to her in a way that everything else hasn't.
Yeah, and I'm impressed by that kind of subtle viral marketing for Hallie Haglin's newsletter, That Hurts My Feelings. Or That Hurt My Feelings. Look it up on Substack, as seen as mentioned kind of in summer camp. But, but you're right. Someone's saying to her, hey, that was you crossed the line. Instead, I guess she's just used to being rewarded for this kind of brash behavior. And no one has very just so baldly said to her, said like, that was mean.
And despite so much of her advice basically just amounting to establishing firm boundaries with other people, I don't think she's used to people establishing boundaries with her.
Yes, very good. This is a well-written movie. Yeah, exactly. So no, these are rich characters. They are rich characters. Like Stuart said, they have no financial problems whatsoever. But.
That's part of the genre though, right? I feel like a big part of the genre is that older ladies doing stuff that they don't have financial troubles. Really.
Yes,
that's more time to have a book club and drink wine.
Also, the genre of movies, which for the most part now are rarely about people with any financial issues. But you're right, there's a fantasy element of like, I don't have to worry about.
Yeah, I saw Black Bag, and I'm like, man, these guys are fucking loaded. They have so many lights on their table.
These spies are loaded.
These spies have the nicest house with so many fucking lamps on their. Like just sitting on the table. It's crazy.
But for real, for true, because you used to see spy movies where the spies were glamorous at work, but not necessarily like wealthy on their own. Like a spy work is not supposed to make you rich.
More like a slow horses thing.
Slow horses, or like the the Michael Caine, Harry Palmer movies? Are those the ones like where they're what's his spy character from like $1 Billion Brain and things like that?
Yeah, or they would have to they'd have to keep like a knife in their shoe. Like that would have to do double duty. They couldn't have they couldn't afford a separate knife and a separate shoe.
Yeah,
that's a very good point. Yeah, if you had a phone in your shoe, it was because you couldn't have both. Exactly. Yeah. James Bond's car is full of gadgets, but they had to use a pre-existing car. It's not like
That's true.
Even though it's a luxury car, it's not like they made him a special car. Whereas now he'd get a special car. Anyway.
Yeah. And when he asked for gadgets, they're like they're in the car. Like you said you wanted a car, they're all in there, dude.
They come preloaded.
Look, you said you wanted a thing that sprays poison gas. We had to put it in a pen because then we could call it part of the office supply budget. That's the only way we could get it through. So Nora and Mary discuss Ginny's issues, and they realize they're not great friends either. They don't remember their friend's birthday or anything like that. That night, Ginny gives her speech. It looks like Mary and Nora didn't show up. Once again, one of Stuart's favorite things, empty seats at a performance.
I love
it. Loves it. Ginny gets upset on stage. She speaks honestly from the heart, and Mary and Nora walk in, and she comes to an epiphany about friendship and needing to not be in control. She says, it's better to be together than to have your shit together. And this is one thing I want to say about this movie. This is not a good movie. It's a comedy that's not funny. It's it does not get through to real emotion in the characters. It is skating by constantly on the charisma of these leads. But I will say this. I recently read the book Liar of Orpheus by Robertson Davies. And in it, he makes the point that even bad, trite, crappy art can still embody a truth, And sometimes those truths come through even truer because you don't have the the glittering, brilliant artifice of a great work of art to distract you. And there are two moments in this movie. The one where Eugene Levy is saying to Diane Keaton, you can't make your whole life about work. Like I did that and it was wrong and it almost killed me. And this moment where she says, it's better to be together than to have your shit together. Like it's better to connect with another person than to seem perfect. And I was like, movie, you're bad, but you're saying real things to me that are good for me to hear at this point in my life at the moment, And so those things being true messages does not in any way make this a good movie. But it was one of those things where I'm like, movie, okay. Like at least the message is not like girls got to do it for themselves, something that is not a real
normally
thing,
when that happens, I'm like watching, I'm like, girls do got to do it for themselves. I haven't really thought about it that way. Thank you.
You're right.
It is so funny when you're watching like a piece of shit that speaks to you all of a sudden and you're like, should this matter so much? Am I an idiot for connecting with this?
Well, it's like there's some I had one of the reasons I left the Daily Show when I did was also I didn't want to work there anymore, but and I was burnt out.
Too much Dan McCoy.
And the allegations.
too much Dan McCoy. And what?
And the allegations.
That too. I had to leave.
Being too funny.
Oh, wow. Good save. Dan saved your ass right
Thank
here.
you, Dan. I appreciate it. After all things I've said about you, was that I went to see two movies around that time. It Follows, where I was like, I love this movie. There's more things to do in life, and I feel like there's a deep meaning to this movie. And Kong Skull Island, which is a very fun movie, but there's a point in it where the guy goes, you go looking for a war, you're going to find one. And I was like, I bet that hit more people harder than everything I've done at The Daily Show about war and like getting into it. The idea that like in this monster movie, if you're looking for a monster to fight, you're going to find a monster to fight, even if there wasn't one to begin with. You're going to make that war for yourself. And I was like, oh man, you can say true things in silly movies or like, goofy movies. The Goofy movie obviously has
you can say there's amazing shit in the Goofy movie.
Yeah, Powerline's song has a lot to say to us.
God, I got to watch that fucking movie.
Well, we're going to have to do the Goofy movie at some point. Like it's maybe the most demanded movie for us to do. So that night, the ladies talk about how Ginny's life has been empty because she's been so focused on seeming perfect, or whatever. They're her real family. And they make up. The next day, they use a canopy zipline ropes course. The movie is effectively over, but I guess there's this ropes course at the camp they were shooting at, so they've got to use it. And Ginny hires Josh Peck. He's now her social media marketer or something like that.
For some reason. He's never shown any aptitude for it.
Well, she has basically sabotaged his camp career, so we might as well help her with this.
Yeah. Nora has an epiphany, and she lets them help her in the ropes course, and she's going to quit her job. Ginny gives another epiphany speech. This one I don't like. The movie has it's selling past the close, and so Nora quits her job. Mary decides to leave her husband, and then they zip line to...
Not just that. Mary also, and look, I don't want to close anyone down before their time. Like many wonderful things can happen.
Don't bring her down.
In old age.
Don't bring her down, Dan.
But Alfre Woodard is in her 70s, and the character at the end of this movie is like, I'm going to go back and become a doctor. I'm like, no, don't. 4 years of medical school? Now?
Can you imagine someone at that age having to do a residency where you're working like 20-hour days? Like, don't do it. Yeah, don't do it. But Dan, it's just a fantasy movie. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, sure.
That's why they ride away on a Pegasus at the end. So they zip line.
It's like what the end of Medea or whatever.
It's a Medea's family reunion.
Yeah. Where Medea flies away with two dead children. What happens in the end of that thing?
So
and Jason's like, "What did I do?"
Oh man! Oh boy!
Man, I feel like a real idiot.
I feel like a real heel. How do I apologize for
Oh man,
this
what
one?
a great character, man! Greek mythology had a lot of great ass characters.
Well, the fact that Jason is a hero, he ruins his family life. He puts on a hockey mask and he just starts stabbing summer campers.
Oh man!
What a hero! That's one of the great things about all the Greek myths is it's like, look, here's the secret. Everybody's a piece of shit, right? Like
the gods, shit.
The gods, pieces of shit. The heroes, pieces of shit. The Minotaur, probably the best guy in the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess like who's other like I guess there's no good guys in Greek myths, which is great.
Yeah, that's probably what spawned the God of War video game franchise. Somebody's like, all these people are pieces of shit. Somebody should invent somebody to just murder them all.
Yeah. So anyway, they zip line away. Summer of '69 plays. And then we get outtakes and bloops.
We get bloopers, and I want to say one thing that I want to. You did not. The one thing I want to.
You
say
heard
about
the
this
siren song of bloops, and you kept it on.
Is there's a scene where Nicole Richie and Betsy Sodaro are clearly improvising, and Nicole Richie comes the closest that the movie does to making me laugh with one of her lines, and it made me think about how she's been really funny in some sitcoms later in her career, and back in the old days when she was hanging out with Paris Hilton, people were making such fun of her, and how it taught a real lesson about how you shouldn't write someone off in a way that I'm like, you're talking about art hitting you in weird ways. I'm like, well, that made me think more than anything else in this movie is just thinking about the real career of this this actor.
I feel like a very real thing that people I think are just coming around to. I think at least culture is coming around to is that Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie knew what they were doing.
Yes.
This is a bit.
Yes, I think so. That it's a bit.
And at the time, all these people were like, "Oh, these characters are these people are dumb," and I'm like, "They're doing a bit, guys."
I mean, I will say, in defense of the people who did not get that they were doing a bit, I think it was a time when there was the idea of, oh, you're famous for being rich and pretty, and now you get a TV show where you get to just kind of it seems like make fun of ordinary people. I think not getting the level of irony that they are the villains of that show, that they're supposed playing dumb, and not living in the world we live in now, where being rich is the single most important thing and the only thing that matters in the entire world. That we live in such a fallen universe at the moment, where all that matters is money, and that a computer can make a picture of Jesus with 5 boobs just with a verbal prompt. I think at an earlier, more innocent time,
boobs is so much better than the vast majority of AI.
So much better than
I guess that's true. So it's because I can't help it. I'm an imaginative human being. I can come up with new ideas. But I think that we lived in a simpler, less. At a time when now it's not like irony is dead so much as reality has become so ironic that nothing matters. And so when that TV show is on, I get people not getting that bit.
No,
that being said, Dan, I know what you're saying, which is you shouldn't just discount somebody because you think you know who they are rather than really paying attion to who they are. Yeah. So we all learned something from summer camp. So
that's a good movie.
That's the movie. Yeah.
Well, that takes us into final judgments, whether this is a good, bad movie, a bad movie, or a movie we kind of like. I'm going to say, like I said, this is a type of movie that surprisingly we often enjoy at the Flophouse, or maybe not surprisingly, but it's not geared towards 3 middle-aged men per se.
You mean a movie filled with beautiful older women that we wouldn't like it? That's crazy, Dan.
You're making it creepy again. But as much as I like the performers, I do think this is kind of it's definitely the weakest one of these that we've watched. I don't know if it's the weakest full stop or that will ever exist, but I will say bad, even though there are elements about it that were
I love that you've thrown down the gauntlet. Somebody make a weaker one.
A worse one. Stuart, what do you have to say?
Someone's going to make a worse one. This is a bad movie. It just it's very scattered. It just doesn't put any. It feels very effortless in a bad way.
Not effortless in a Michael Jordan way, you know.
Yeah, yeah. It seems to rely on the charisma and talent of the cast, and I don't think it gives them enough to work with. It's not very good. Bad.
I'm going to surprise you guys. I think this is objectively a bad movie. It's barely a movie. There's a joke I've always loved from Mystery Science Theater for the movie The Screaming Skull, where they say this is about 2 minutes of a movie and 90 minutes of styrofoam packing peanuts. And that's what this movie feels like also. But I will say, this is maybe because it's not trying at all. And it is so entirely resting just on my residual enjoyment of this cast. I did find it going down very easy. And it had those 2 moments where I was like, all right, this movie is saying true things to me almost by accident, you know? And so in the end, it was a movie I kind of liked, but it is bad. It's not worth watching. And it's very much like, but I think it was almost like if this was trying to be funny and failing, I would have hated it. But since it is not trying to be funny, and I can't discount it for failing at something it's not even attempting.
Yeah.
You know? So
it's easy, breezy, beautiful.
Well, there's a reason why I put it on and don't remember that much of it because I'm like, it's just
the drugs.
It feels a little bit
drugs
like
I took.
But it feels a little bit like when you're watching commercials in a row during a commercial break on a TV when you're watching TV, and the commercials are neither annoying enough to be memorable, nor are they funny or cool enough to be memorable. And you're just sitting there letting faces that you recognize play over your retinas, and you're just kind of like, all right, this happened. If there's anything that pushes me towards not liking it, it's the soundtrack. The needle drops are just dumb. I'm not a fan of those needle drops. But
I mean,
overall,
don't get me wrong. You play a ZZ Top song, I'm going to like that.
He's going to get up and start boogieing around the room.
Do a little Texas two-step around my living room.
But I will say that objectively, this is a bad movie. Yeah.
Hi, is this Sam?
Yes, it is.
I'm Brenda, host of Secret Histories of Nerd Mysteries on Maximum Fun, and I'm calling because you've been named Maximum Fun's Member of the Month for May.
Wow, I'm really excited to hear that. I love being a member. I like all the BOCO, and I enjoy all the shows that I listen to. I love Maximum Fun.
As our Member of the Month, you'll be getting a $25 gift card to the Maximum Fun store, a special Member of the Month bumper sticker, a special priority parking spot at Maximum Fun HQ in Los Angeles, California, just for you.
I can't wait to see what the bumper sticker looks like.
Oh yeah, I am obsessed with bumper stickers. What's your message to people thinking about joining Maximum Fun?
I mean, if you really like the shows, I think it's like a really good way to help support them. I'm really happy I'm able to.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for making your show.
Become a Maximum member now at MaximumFun.org/join.
It's hard to explain what Jordan Jesse Go is about.
So I had my kids take a stab at it.
Probably weird stuff.
You talk about
jobs that are annoying.
Business. I think you probably learned your lesson after talking about business a couple of times.
Grown-up jokes that I don't understand, and there's no point in making. All the podcasts are boring.
Subscribe to Jordan Jesse Go,
a comedy show for grown-ups.
Hey, this podcast is sponsored, of course, by the support of Max Fun listeners. Thank you to all who are members. But it is also, specifically this episode, sponsored in part by Squarespace. If you offer services on the internet, well, you need a website. Squarespace gives you everything you need to promote your services and get paid. How? With their easy-to-use tools, professional on-brand invoices and online payments help you get paid on time, and built-in appointment scheduling and email marketing tools let you streamline your workflow. And who doesn't want a streamlined workflow? What's more, Squarespace...
At my age, my workflow is not as streamlined as I would like it to be.
You should probably get your prostate checked for that.
My work prostate. My pro state. Professional.
Good stuff. What's more, Squarespace also offers a full library of award-winning website templates designed by pros with all sorts of options for whatever you might specifically need. Make your site with drag and drop editing and unrivaled visual design effects and styling options with no experience required. So, Head to squarespace.com/flop for a free trial. And when you are ready to launch, use offer code FLOP to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Elliot, you probably have things you want to plug. You do things on the side.
I do too many things on the side. I've got stuff to plug. I'm just the same old regular stuff. Regular listeners know that I have a couple of ongoing projects. One is my other podcast. Sorry, guys, I'm cheating on you with Sean Hayes. That podcast is
It's
Clueless.
okay. I like to watch from the window.
My podcast, Clueless, on the Smartless Network, which is a 12 to 15 minute long, usually puzzle podcast. Please try to check that out. My series from DC Comics, Harley Quinn, continues to come out monthly, and I'm having a lot of fun writing it. And the art looks amazing. And finally, there's my new children's picture book, Sadie Mouse Wrecks the House. It's out in store shelves now. And we just had a signing yesterday, as we're recording this, at Once Upon a Time Books in Montrose, California. And it went really great. And a bunch of floppers showed up with their kids, and it was really wonderful. So thank you so much to the listeners who showed up. Thanks for picking up Sadie Mouse Wrecks the House. I think your kids will enjoy it.
You didn't have a Salman Rushdie situation?
I did not have a Salman Rushdie situation. No, I didn't. Yeah, everything was fine. No one tried to assassinate me. So that was a hilarious joke, Stuart. Dan, can we talk to Stu about this? This is going too far. But anyway, thanks, floppers, for coming out. That's Sadie Mouse Wrecks the House on bookstore shelves. Go to your local independent bookstore and say, "Get me a book where a mouse named Sadie wrecks a house."
Nice.
Stuart, what about you? What do you got to plug?
Well, I don't know. We reopened our bar Commonwealth in Park Slope. You should go check it out. You should go to my Twitch channel, Stuart Wellington, and watch me paint models once a week. I usually do it in the afternoons on Fridays. Yeah, that's about it. I got nothing else going on.
Hey, as long as we're plugging things, I don't actually mention it that much, but I've got a personal newsletter. It's called Dan McCoy's Special Interests. You can, I don't know, you can just Google that. It'll come up. Dan McCoy's Special Interests. It's probably also the URL. I can't remember. What, am I supposed to know everything?
Yeah, and it's certainly have no way of looking it up now. So what do we do next on the podcast?
The next thing is let's answer some listener letters. Letters from listeners. I'm pulling them up right now, and here we go. Hi, floppers.
Hey.
This is from Joanna, last name with L.
Oh, okay.
Hi, floppers.
Fabrics?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's Joanne, but yes, sure.
Thanks for correcting me.
I didn't want those Joanne Fabrics people who are like already sad about all of it going out of business.
I can't win today.
To come for us,
Yeah, Stuart, you're just hitting so many hot button topics and raw nerves.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, guys.
Joanne says, I was ecstatic when Hallie recommended Dangerous Beauty on the Better Man episode, as it finally gave me a reason to write in after listening for 15 plus years.
Wow, thank you for listening all that time and not writing in. We appreciate your restraint.
Just
kidding. Hey, just kidding.
I attended a fancy all-girls high school that required everyone to take
Stuart, you were just telling me about a movie about something like that.
Yeah.
I required everyone to take one semester of Italian Renaissance art. At the end of the semester, our teacher decided to screen Dangerous Beauty. The main character's mother, played by Jacqueline Bisset, is a former courtesan who decides that her daughter must also become a courtesan.
Family business.
There's a sequence where the mother trains the daughter in the ways of the courtesan.
Mm-hmm.
It is all pretty tame until she brings in a handsome stable boy and forces her daughter to watch her give him a hand job.
We've all been there.
Imagine.
Which part of that scenario?
On which side? Imagine about 20, 15-year-old girls screaming in absolute horror when they realize that this poor girl has to learn how to give a hand job from her mom. I've seen and forgotten a lot of movies over the years, but that scene will live in my mind until the day I die. Anyway, do you have any particularly memorable classroom-based movie-watching incidents to share, whether from elementary school, high school, or college? Best wishes, Joanna. The only two things I can remember, not as striking as that. I remember, of course, we watched Schindler's List in school, and people had to get, permission slips for watching an R-rated movie.
To watch something with Jews on it, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, it just struck me because, I understand why the school has to do it, but on the other hand, it was like, oh, the people who grow up in the most restrictive households who arguably would benefit the most from seeing this movie are not going to see it under that circumstance. But I also remember in middle school, watching, I think it was like the last week of school when the teachers have given up and nothing we're going to watch is of educational value.
We once watched Empire Records in a biology class in high school at the end of the year.
We watched Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and I was the only one who laughed at the, that's the Ark of the Covenant? Are you sure? Pretty sure. And the teacher coming by Dan,
this guy's getting a passing grade.
You and me, we're the real ones. we like Indy.
I had kind of the opposite type experience in a classroom once, which is my AP government politics teacher was out sick one day in high school, and so we were supposed to watch Roger and Me, the first Michael Moore movie, and our substitute put it on, and then about 5 minutes in, he turned it off and said, "This is un-American," and he said, "Just read or do your other homework for the rest of the class."
Wow.
That's incredible.
It was so funny.
I remember, I think it was in high school, we were doing stream of consciousness stuff. I think we were reading Portrait of the Artist or something. And so as an example, we watched The Wall. And we had to get our parents to sign permission slips.
Sober?
And one of the kids complained to their parents, and so there was a little bit of a stink because their parents were like, "This is inappropriate for kids to watch." It was really funny.
Yeah.
And then the next year we
Too
watched
boring for children.
We watched 1776, and I was like, "Man, why is that Boy Meets World guy singing all these fucking songs?"
Why is Mr. Feeney doing all this singing?
Amazing stories all around, just like that series.
Yeah, that's what the series Amazing Stories was mostly.
Do you think when they were trying to come up with a fucking title for that thing, they're like, "What do we call this show with all these amazing stories?"
Wait, say that again. What? The show's full of amazing stories? That's it.
But
I didn't know for sure until I heard it a second time.
With amazing stories. Can we shorten this? This is from Pete, last name withheld, who writes, "A while ago, I asked you what I could do to be less like Dan, or what Dan would recommend that I might enjoy."
Why would you want to be less like Dan? Let's just start. Dan's a wonderful person. He's a real sweetheart.
Thank you.
I think our president would be a lot better if he was more like Dan.
Yeah, I agree with that. This was just a minor update to my Dan-itis.
How many Tinto Brass movies has our president seen? Probably a few, actually.
He's probably into it.
Probably a few. This is just a minor update to my Dan-itis situation. I've blown out my knee and torn my ACL. So
that's horrible.
Just sorry to Pete last name withheld.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that, Pete.
But here's some encouragement. I'd say that my knee is back to being at 95%, but the other knee deteriorated to make up for it. So
that's terrible. And just think about it. Dan's ACL healed, but he got years of complaints out of it. So that was worth it, right?
Years.
Yeah. Think of all the free drinks he got from sad people who wanted to make him feel better.
Just keep up with your physical therapy. That's the advice. But now let's move on to recommendations.
Because you're a bit of a teacher pleaser, right, Dan? So
that makes sense.
Well, you're trying to when your doctor gives you physical therapy, you're like, I got to do that. The teacher wants me to get this done. Is that true or no? Or is it entirely because you're motivated to improve yourself?
I wouldn't say it's because I'm motivated to improve myself. I am motivated to, my body is important as a way of walking around.
And there's a certain amount of knee vanity tied in with that.
Exactly.
I want to have the sexiest knees.
Well, that's the thing. He sees those Slendermans and he's like, I got to have knees like that where you don't even see them. It's just a straight line up.
It's impossible to have knees like Slenderman. You got to stop trying to reach an unachievable goal.
But he's so tall too. He must have knee problems. Support all that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure. Foot problems, ankle problems.
You guys think Slenderman can hoop?
Could hoop?
I'm not sure, but it's funny to think of it.
Slenderman hooping? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do recommendations of movies that we've seen recently or not so recently that we've enjoyed. I'm going to
don't limit me.
Yeah, I would never. I would never, Elliot.
Thank you.
By the time this is out, people are already seeing this the theaters. I don't know, but I got to see an advanced screening because I had a critic friend.
Dan's flexing, everybody.
Who invited me to an early screening of Final Destination Bloodlines. which I very much enjoyed. I have enjoyed basically the entire Final Destination series. Even
give me a quick ranking.
Even the weakest one, I've enjoyed a little bit.
Which is the weakest one?
4.
4 is the weakest. Yeah.
That's the one where they're tracking down Death and they're trying to kill Death with different death traps and he keeps escaping.
I don't know.
Of the previous ones,
which one is the one where the soldier plays cards and he gets the thing that lets him see Death and he catches him in a bag and hangs him in a tree?
You're thinking of that episode of The Storyteller?
You're right. That's one thing of Jim Henson's Storyteller, not Final Destination. Thank you.
Of the previous ones, I think personally I would go 3, 2, 5, 1, 4. Okay. But a lot of them are grouped pretty closely. But this new one, really enjoyed it. Probably the best one, I would say. The one weak point about it is it doesn't have she's not bad, but I don't think the lead has the charisma of Mary Elizabeth Winstead or even Ali Larter is also
let alone a Diane Keaton.
Let alone a Diane Keaton. Her in a Final Destination.
Her in a Final Destination.
I would love her kind of bumbling through a Final Destination would be amazing.
But she's got to survive. She's got to somehow be the only one who is able to survive through dithering.
That's basically like a Mr. Magoo baby stay out situation.
Yes, exactly.
I don't think the new one ever gets better than its opening sequence, which is amazing. But I do think it has a lot of fun. By this point in the series, you know what to expect out of these movies, and the movie knows that you know what to expect, and plays some fun games with you and your expectations. And I saw it in sort of fake IMAX, and the whole audience was hooting and hollering. So
are they showing that in 4DX?
I'm sure they have to.
Man,
they have to.
Yeah, and they kill you at the end of the movie.
Whoa! They do.
That's part of the experience, yeah.
It's part of it. Stuart, what do you got?
I am going to recommend a movie that's kind of on theme with summer camp. I rewatched the movie Bull Durham, a sexy baseball comedy. They don't make a lot of sexy baseball comedies anymore.
Just the one.
Yeah,
everybody wants them. That's kind of sexy.
I guess you're right.
Yeah, but there's not a lot of baseball in it.
No.
Yeah.
It's not really about the baseball.
In some way, well, I mean, I guess Bull Durham is about the baseball. I remember watching it as a kid and being like, why isn't there more baseball in this movie? And then as an adult, I'm like, why isn't there more sex in this movie? But it's so fun. It's a great movie. As somebody who doesn't really care that much about baseball, I feel like the movie does a very good job of translating what baseball means to people, to a person like me, or at least communicating what baseball is for somebody who is not interested. It helps that the leads are all incredibly charming. I had kind of forgotten what a sex symbol Kevin Costner was, and he's just he's just lighting that screen on fire, baby. I'm so used to him being all-purpose American Dad. Not the American Dad from the TV show.
So not all-purpose American Dad.
No, he's
that
not,
one purpose. There's another guy.
Yeah, he's not Steve Smith. Is that
I don't know.
Is that his name? Stan Smith? I don't.
I think it's Stan.
You work in animation.
Now that
I work in animation, which means I know the names of all the characters on the shows I don't like. Yeah.
But it's
I see American Dad sometimes at events in the industry. Yeah.
Well, Kevin Costner.
We
and
nod.
Susan
We don't really
Sarandon,
know each other, but we recognize it from other events. We just nod,
of course. And you guys have probably mentioned hey, we should work together, but you never really follow up. You don't actually intend to work together.
No, we don't actually have that conversation. No.
Okay. Maybe this is all just in the fantasies that I write or the texts I write to Dan.
Sure. Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that Kevin Costner, Susan Sarandon, very hot. Tim Robbins, fun. Great movie. Check it out. When are you going to watch Bull Durham with your baseball fanatic son, Elliot?
I feel like it's not really, again, the type of baseball movie that works best for an 11-year-old. That being said, we have our go-to baseball movie in our house, League of Their Own. League of Their Own, the greatest sports movie ever made, and so we watch that quite a bit in our house. Yeah.
But your son loves that Susan Sontag speech, right, in Bull Durham?
Yeah, that's true. He really relates to that.
It's a great speech, Dan.
It is a great speech, but the thing is, he has a lot of issues with Sontag's later work, so that kind of muddies the water a little bit. Yeah. Dan, what movie are you going to recommend?
I already did it.
That's right. It's my turn. So I'm going to recommend a movie that is kind of the exact opposite of summer camp, I think, in every way, but it still says something true. It's just kind of bitterly true. This is a movie I may have recommended in the past on the show. It's a favorite of mine, but recently I just wanted to watch something that I knew I would get something out of, even if it wasn't always sweetness and light. And so that movie is Little Murders, starring Elliot Gould and Marcia Rod from 1971 that Alan Arkin directed, written by Jules Feiffer from his play of the same name. And for anyone who's not familiar, it is one of the kind of darkest comedies that is still funny to me that I feel came out of like America in the 60s, 70s. It's not quite as grim to me as Where's Papa, a movie I do not find funny, but it's still really grim. And
do they ever answer the question?
They do not answer the question of where Papa is. No, but speaking of the movie that I'm talking about now, Little Murders, it's kind of like a nightmare vision of New York as hell in some ways, but not the kind of like brightly lit kind of like Martin Scorsese Taxi Driver New York as hell, and more like a city that just grinds people down with real casual kind of disrespect and violence and filth. And the acting in it is great. It's a real over-the-top caricatured view of the world. There's some amazing monologues in it. There's a monologue that Elliot Gould has about his experience as a younger man with a government worker who was spying on him by reading his mail. That is all this one-take monologue speech that really hit me really hard. Like how I went back and rewound it and watched it again. And it's just a really great movie that I find it really funny. It'll make you feel really bad, but the performances are great. And it's just, if you want a movie that's going to challenge you to a certain extent, Little Murders is a really good one for that.
I saw that movie when I was like 12 or 13 because
not the right time to see it.
Even as a kid, for some reason, I loved Elliot Gould.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the Elliot Gould comedy. I'll watch this, and man, did it horrify me.
Yeah. It's a haunting movie. Yeah.
I love when you watch a movie with a monologue like that, and you're like, I got to rewind it. I think the last time I did that was, what was that, Resurrection with Rebecca Hall?
Oh, that's
where you're like, what is happening here in this movie?
Yeah. So this is one I highly recommend it. It's not going to be for everybody, but I think it's really amazing. So that's Little Murders. I will say one thing: try to avoid reading any summaries of it because there's a thing that happens in it that should be a surprise. And I remember once our good friend Matt Carmen, who helps us with our Flop TV stuff, I recommended it to him, and he got it from Netflix when Netflix still mailed out DVDs, and the summary on the envelope gave away what happened as if it was something that happens in the beginning of the movie, and it made him really mad. So don't bother looking up summaries of it. Just go.
Yeah.
I don't know why you're reading summaries of the movie you're about to watch anyway, but go see it in the theater where it's playing in 1971.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, that's it for this episode. I want to thank our producer, Alex Smith. He goes by the name Howell Doughty on the internet for all sorts of musical and Twitch streaming enterprises. That's a name that isn't naturally understood how it's spelled. So I'm going to spell it out for you because I feel like we don't do it that often. It's Howell. That's Howell. Doughty, Dawdy. And I also want to thank our network, Maximum Fun. If you go to MaximumFun.org, you can find a lot of great other podcasts. They say comedy and culture. One of those things applies to you. You like comedy? You like culture? Which one?
Maybe both.
Maybe both. Is it possible? Who knows? Some would say comedy is part of culture. You never know.
Some would say culture is part of comedy.
How
long is the podcast we're doing here?
I just want to stretch it at the end. Okay. Well, anyway, for the Flophouse, I've been Dan McCoy.
I'm Stuart Wellington.
I'm Elliot Kalin.
Okay. See you later. Bye.
Suckers. Bye.
Do you like beet juice? You guys beet juice drinkers?
I actually do like beet juice.
You can't beat it.
Good for the heart. And from what I hear, a natural Viagra. So if you got a little bit of penis problems,
that's
Dan,
what
you can try picking it.
How's it working for your penis? You're drinking it right now.
I mean, I'm like at least at half mast.
So,
that's all this talk about.
So Dan, if you're having troubles,
pics you keep sending.
Ever having troubles downstairs, just open it up like a sandworm, shove a beet in there.
Man, I was so close to coffee going straight into my sinuses with that one.
It would have burned your sinuses.
Yeah, I would not have enjoyed that. So.
No, not at all. Should we do this recording, or should we keep saying gross things that no one wants to hear?
Let's talk about this grandma camp movie.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows.
supported
Directly
by you.